of Assembly complex. On the foreign scene, several children, among those stabbed in park in France. I am Constance Mega. Some tricycle operators in Obogoro, Obiakpo local government area of Rivers State, are protesting the alleged killing of one of their colleagues, Nsikak Isieme. The angry protesters said Nsikak was punched during an argument over a ticket fee of 200 naira. Now, the angry tricycle operators marched to the complex of Kuwazobia Info FM demanding justice on the matter. The president of the tricycle union in Obogoro community, Ivumba Friday, spoke to our correspondent on this.
The Nsikak Isieme was murdered this morning by one OCC, a cultist that have been terrorizing the Obogoro and our people on daily basis. We got similar information and we'll be reporting this matter to OSPAC, even to the police. When police will come to arrest this particular hoodlum that have been terrorizing KK people, the OSPAC will aid the send OC in question to run. So many times he used to break their windscreen in Obogoro. Our KK people, they are law-abiding people that are respecting the law. They pay their tax on daily basis. But if you see the level of ticket from community, from the OCC, maintained on our KK people, up till now, so I'm speaking to you, we don't know whereabouts of the cops of our member that has died.
Moving on now, some civil servants in Rivers State say they would prefer increased salary or an alternative means of transportation to a reduction in work days. They were reacting to the reduction of work days for civil servants in Edo and Kwara states as part of the state government's efforts to reduce the hardship caused by the high cost of petrol. Our correspondent caught up with some civil servants at the River State Secretariat complex who said reducing work days will affect service delivery.
Some of the people that stay from distance place to reach office at time they spend 500 just to come, while some people spend 600, almost 1,200.
That reason is not okay. Our own brother, similarly, Fubar, should come to our own need. It's also for him to create that kind of transportation welfare for the workers, create a kind of a motto and bring it down at their own low level price, not as a private.
They should do something pertaining the salary. It's the salary that's number one priority. Because if they reduce it, you will still spend that same money. Every day things are expensive in the market. Children's school, house rent, talking of transport fare.
Of course, 3 days is okay, except there will be an increment. If there will be an increment, of course, the 5 days could have been better so that to give an optimum service.
Well, recall that the governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, and his Kwara State counterpart, Abdurrahman Abdurazak, announced the reduction of the work days of civil servants from 5 to 3 days weekly in their states. Now, some business owners in Port Harcourt say they are still struggling to adapt to the current realities 1 week after the new petrol pump price of 511 naira per litre was announced. Well, those who spoke to our correspondent said the situation is terribly affecting their businesses.
Yesterday, I buy fuel of 10,000 naira. Before I would drive to Eche, where I carry my clients to inspect land at Eche, my light show red light. Why? It's something I used to buy fuel of 2,000 naira and go Eche come back.
My shop now, if somebody comes to buy something and you tell the person this has added money based on the fuel, because where we get the goods, the transportation and all that is very high. They'll say there is no way they can get the drugs that amount.
We are using the fuel to cut board. That is the only way it was, because when customer come now, when you tell the price of the cutting of the board, they could be they do argument, but the thing is God must surely help us.
So it's not really easy on us, and I just pray that federal government should work on make the fuel come back to normal. We have refineries; they should make these things work.
Meanwhile, the Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transport Workers of Nigeria has started a 4-day nationwide strike. Announcing this in Abuja yesterday, the union's National Deputy President, David Nusa, said the strike followed the high cost of petrol and the alleged poor treatment of drivers by app-based transport companies. He said the drivers are requesting a 200% increase in their service charge and a reduction in the percentage taken by app-based transport companies.
We demand that they should increase our fare with 200% increment. They should also reduce their percentage by 50%. They collect about 25 to 30% respectively from every trip we make because it's affecting our drivers. Imagine a driver bought a fuel for 10,000 naira, only for him to work 13,000 naira. Now, when you remove the fuel money and remove the 25% money, there is nothing left for the driver.
On his part, the National Auditor of the Union, Fred Alegburu, urged the federal government to provide practical interventions for the informal sector.
We are sending message also to federal government to look for a way they can get a palliative for the app-based workers who are in the informal sector of the economy. Even if you increase minimum wage, it does not affect the informal sector. It only affects the government workers and civil servants alone.
Well, in Port Harcourt, an e-hailing driver, Laurencia Ogu, also spoke to our correspondent.
We, the boat drivers, are dissatisfied for reviewing of their prices in the wake of the fuel hike. It does not reflect the current economic reality on ground. We work, we pay high commission to this e-hailing app, we buy fuel at a very exorbitant price, and we go home with nothing. So basically, boat drivers are working for two things. They are working for fuel, and commission are trying to have a slight satisfaction, and they do not want to listen. So we decided that we are going to go on strike to get their attention.
Well, the strike, which started on Wednesday, will end on the 12th of this month, after which there will be a meeting between the union and app-based companies. In the meantime, major oil marketers and distributors are supporting the removal of fuel subsidy. The marketers made the pledge during a courtesy visit to President Tinubu. Speaking on their behalf, the chairman of the Depots and Petroleum Products Marketers Association of Nigeria, Winifred Akpani, said Nigerians will begin to feel the benefits of the policy by July. While calling for alternative energy sources, she promised that the marketers would donate between 50 and 100 buses to help cushion the effects of the subsidy removal on the masses.
We have stopped feeding most of Africa. Already, the volumes have dropped. And it's not only because you're saying we can't afford transportation. It's only the man who has a Jeep that will spend 70,000 naira now to fuel his car. The man who doesn't have a car, all he needs is transportation. And to that extent, we recognize the fact that we have to have an effective mass transit system. A lot of jobs are going to be created. New businesses are going to come up. So for us, it was a very, very good meeting.
The national women leader of the APC, Betta Edu, is optimistic that women will get 25% of the appointments in the Federal Executive Council. Dr. Edu said this in an interview with correspondent Enyeka Chimusu. She said President Tinubu has assured her that women will be adequately represented in his cabinet. The APC women leader also disclosed efforts to ensure that the 10th National Assembly passes the gender bills. Well, as you may know, the National Gender Policy formulated a 35% affirmative action in Nigeria since 2006. The policy, which demands that 35% of women be involved in all governance processes, is still not practiced 1 year after a landmark judgment upheld and mandated its implementation. Meanwhile, a former Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism, Eden Duke, says he expects technocrats and politicians to make up the cabinet of the current administration.
There has been eloquent testimony of the ability of the president to identify credible talent. There's got to be a balance of the technocrats and the politicians. And when you are looking at the politicians, you are looking at politicians who have excelled and are able to bring exceptional value and rapid progress in whatever areas of responsibility they find themselves.
The new Rivers State House of Assembly has elected more principal officers. The election took place at the first legislative sitting of the House yesterday. And the member representing Aoda East Constituency 2, Ehie Edison, was elected as leader of the House, while the member representing Okrika Constituency, Linda Stewart, was elected as deputy leader. The lawmaker representing Akotoru Constituency 2, Major Jack, was elected chief whip of the House, and Ofix Kabang of Andoni State Constituency was elected deputy whip. Correspondent Soibio Ruwari reports that the House adjourned plenary to 19th June. In the meantime, the leadership of the Rivers State House of Assembly is appealing for support from members of the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, PASAN. The Speaker of the House, Martin Ameuli, shortly after yesterday's sitting, urged members of the association to ensure the House succeeds.
Well, we have come or called for this meeting this afternoon so that we can rub minds together. And what we want to achieve in the next 4 years is a departure for the better. What we want to do is to move the assembly to the height where it should be. But we don't claim to know it all or to be perfect. Even when we know it all, we may not be able to still do what we have on our list without you. So we need all of you in the various departments to join hands with us so that we can achieve what we want to achieve.
Well, the Speaker also said lawmakers are focused on fulfilling the expectations of Rivers people. He said the House will soon come up with their legislative agenda that will accommodate everyone.
I said that the legislative agenda for the 10th Assembly will be rolled out. So you cannot roll out an agenda alone as an individual. We have just been sworn in as officers, and of course we took our oath of office as members. We are going to work together as an assembly. 32 of us will sit down and discuss where are we going, how do we get there, and it will be something that will be a constant. We will roll out that it's not a one-man thing, and we will follow it and ensure that it's to the benefit of the people of Rivers State.
Responding, the chairperson of PASAN in the Rivers State House of Assembly, Comfort Obuene, assured the state lawmakers of workers' cooperation in the discharge of their legislative functions.
Mr. Speaker, like you said, this is not a day for big talks and plenty talk. We are excited that you are already aware of our issues, and we're also excited by the promises and the resolve of this new assembly to make things better. We want to just assure you of our commitment to work with you. We want to assure you of our commitment to put in our best to move this assembly forward. The Rivers State House of Assembly has always been a pace setter, so we are happy that you are resolved to bring us back to that enviable position.
The police have sealed off the Nasarawa House of Assembly complex in a bid to avert a breakdown of law and order following the emergence of two speakers for the 7th Assembly. The State Police Public Relations Officer, DSP Ramhan Nansel, said the action was due to a directive by the State Commissioner of Police, Meyaki Mohammed Baba, while the immediate past Speaker, Ibrahim Balarabe Abdullahi, and another member, Daniel Ogazi, were both elected as speakers in parallel sittings on Tuesday. Still ahead, lawmakers passed bill to punish sexual offenders in tertiary institutions.
Politics, business.
Strengthening the supervision of teaching and learning in school. The management of the Rivers State Universal Basic Education, RSUBEB, has resolved that principals and head teachers will be held liable for acts of truancy and inefficiency by teachers serving under them. The statement signed by the spokesman of the UBE board, Carrie George, said such school heads will be removed and demoted to serve as classroom teachers. The statement said the executive chairman of the UBE board, Dr. Fineface Aka, stated this shortly after an extraordinary management meeting that considered the report of a panel set up by the board to review the cases of about 500 truant and inefficient teachers. But Mr. George said the board also resolved that all staff without valid reason or excuse for being away from their duty posts shall be sanctioned in accordance with public service rules. He added that staff who unilaterally took sick leave or maternity leave without official approval will also face sanctions, since ignorance of the law is not an excuse. But the spokesman said the Rivers State's UBE board, which manages teachers and basic schools in the state, has undertaken special training programs, examinations, and quality assurance evaluation to strengthen teacher fidelity and improve learning in schools. In other news, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Port Harcourt, Owunari George Will, says the university will continue to provide a platform for all disciplines to excel and fulfill their mandates. Professor George Will said this while declaring open the 5th Journalism Educators Foundation Conference yesterday. Well, the conference is organized by the Journalism Educators Foundation, JEF, in collaboration with the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies at the University of Port Harcourt. Well, the JEF chairman, Professor Anyefyok Udo, spoke to newsmen shortly after the event.
As scholars, we research just to find out solutions to problems. When you research, there must be at least one problem for you to solve. We do research, we do community service, and we teach. The major aim of this foundation is to interact with journalism in the field so that we learn from them what is happening in the field, and then we also give to them what is happening. Them free workshop.
Our journalism and socio-economic recovery in developing nations. The conference is chaired by the Chief Executive Officer at Bowen Luxury Estates, Ori Martins, who also received an award at the event yesterday.
You hear news now, before you believe it, you want to check whether it's on the mainstream news. And one thing that set the Jews apart from the rest of the world, they believe in education and continuous education. For the father, you're out of school, there's no end of it that you should be done with education.
The National Assembly has passed a bill to make comprehensive provisions for the prohibition and punishment of sexual harassment by educators in tertiary institutions. The proposed legislation seeks to criminalize sexual harassment by educators against students in tertiary institutions. But the National Assembly has also passed legislation to make compulsory the inclusion of preventive measures against sexual and gender-based violence in the curriculum of all levels of secondary education in Nigeria. And in business, the percentage of diaspora Nigerians with national identification numbers rose to 25.17% in May 2023. But the National Identity Management Commission says it has registered over 427,900 diaspora Nigerians since it launched its diaspora enrollment exercise in 2019. In entertainment, Spotify has announced that Nigerian sensation singer King Madi has joined its Equal Africa music program. King Madi launched her career at the early age of 7. In sports, Real Madrid have agreed a deal with Borussia Dortmund to sign 19-year-old England midfielder Jude Bellingham for €103 million.
And now, we bring you news from around the world.
Children are in a critical condition following a knife attack in the Alpine town of Annecy, southeastern France. Police say the attack was carried out in a park by a 45-year-old Syrian man who was seeking refugee status. But French media reports that the injured children are around the age of 3 and 2. They say that 2 of them are in a critical condition. And that's the news. But before we go, another look at the highlights of the major stories. On the news this afternoon, you heard that tricycle operators have protested the killing of their colleague in Obogoro, Rivers State. The Rivers State civil servants are opposing the reduction in workdays over fuel subsidy removal. And ride-hailing drivers have shut down operations as hike in petrol price impacts businesses. Lawmakers have passed a bill to punish sexual offenders in tertiary institutions. On the foreign scene, several children are among those stabbed in a park in France. The news was edited by Onyeka Chinwosu. Rain expected in Port Harcourt this afternoon. Peace is the path to the prosperity of a nation. Let peace reign. I'm Constance Mega. Thank you so much for listening. Good afternoon.